This is Vikier van Baskerville, the Hound of the Baskerville family. He dedicated his entire life to the family but was accused of associating with demons. And so his life ended at the hands of his dear father. In his final seconds he thought that if he were born again he would go after the rabbit and eliminate his prey. But he would never live as a hound again. Suddenly his vision shifts. He has been reborn, and he was reborn alongside several noisy children. They were all now at the grand estate of the Baskerville family. The children wouldn't stop crying. Hugo Lab Baskerville says all these rats are annoying. While walking he thinks that there isn't a single special child this time around, but suddenly something catches his eye. The little piece of trash in front of him was quiet, so he ordered them to take that child to the Cradle of Swords. Vicar knew that man was the one who caused his death. He was the patriarch of the Baskerville family, but now he appeared in his younger form. That meant Vicer had returned to when he was a baby. Vikier was born as an illegitimate son and received mediocre training. A hound only needed to be devoted to the mission. Be it assassination, intelligence, ambush, or threats, a hound needs to handle the dirty work. And that's how the Baskervilles became the greatest of the 7 families. The reason he stayed loyal before was that he wanted recognition from the family and from Hugo. 10 years after the portals to the demonic realm opened and humans won the war, the reward for the hounds who were loyal was execution. Of course, this time he'll do things differently. He wants revenge, but in this baby body it's impossible. However, he knows the Cradle of Swords is the perfect opportunity for him to get strong. The Cradle of Swords is where the Baskerville family performs a judgment. Children are thrown into a labyrinth of swords. On the other side they enter the river Styx, which is blessed. The longer they stay and the stronger they become, but there's a limit to how many children can receive the effect. In short, to reach the river Styx, you must first cross the sword labyrinth at maximum speed. Everything seems normal in this family. Vikier was already there in the labyrinth. In his past life he was pushed out by his brothers and didn't receive the effects. But this time he has a target in mind, so things will be different. Throwing himself into the river, he thinks about monopolizing the water for as long as possible. It's looking like the fight over the Strait of Hormuz. The boy sinks like a nail. The water enters his body and bones through the cuts. Now he needs to endure as much as he can, even if it's painful. All the patriarch's vassals start saying he should come out. But Hugo just laughs at the situation. He asks John Barrymore, the family butler, how long the boy has been in there. The answer is 7 minutes. The patriarch, still laughing, says that 7 minutes is a lot and that he'll probably die in there. Son, you may come out now, he says. The boy heard Hugo's voice, but he's not giving up yet. He needs to absorb as much as possible until the very end, but I think he absorbed too much to the point of swallowing the water. He thinks he must stay firm, but maybe it's too late. Suddenly someone pulls him out by the leg. It was Hugo, laughing at the situation, saying the boy wanted more than he could handle and even drank the river water. He stayed in there so long that even his teeth grew. Impressed, Hugo asks what the child's name is and the butler replies, "It is Vicer van Baskerville." Hugo is very happy and proud. A very greedy son was born into his family. On the other hand, Vicer only thought that Hugo should enjoy it. Enjoy it while he silently sharpens his canines, because he himself will make the Baskerville family vanish from history. In his last life people called him a genius at 8. But inside his own house he was still treated as average. By 20 he was leading assassination, scouting, and subjugation missions. At 29 he hit the wall created by the direct bloodline's talent and saw the limit of his sword skill. Then at 30 the gate to the demon world opened, and the Great War began. It lasted nearly 10 years, ending with humanity's victory. And when he reached 40, after fighting like the family's perfect hound, his reward was lies, slander, and a death sentence. Back in the cradle, he realizes he made it through the river Styx, which means he's already stronger than he was in his first life. While thinking that over, he notices an unfamiliar woman coming near his cradle. She quickly leaves a box behind, and it isn't a gift. It's an assassination attempt. 2 rare snakes crawl out. Vicar can only wonder if they really needed to go this far just to kill him. Still, he catches one important clue: a maid called the woman Madam. That title narrows things down to only a few women in the Baskerville family. There's no time to think longer. The snakes strike, but he stops them with ease and kills them on the spot. The next day, everyone in the Baskerville house is shocked by a baby sleeping peacefully in the blood of venomous snakes. Every nanny on duty that day is tortured and executed, but no one uncovers how those snakes got into the cradle. Only Vicar knows the truth. 8 years pass. Professor Saudi explains that swordsmen grow through 4 stages: sword initiate, sword specialist, sword graduate, and the final stage where the aura and the blade become solid and can change shape by the user's will. Those people are called sword masters. He ends by saying that Hugo Labaskerville is one of them. Seeing Vicar van Baskerville lost in thought, Professor Saudi assumes he's focused on the lesson, but his real question is simple. How many years will it take before he can kill Hugo? Meanwhile, his brothers hate all the attention he's getting. They drag him to a secluded spot and ask about the rumors around him, like staying 7 minutes in the river Styx or killing 2 snakes while he was still in the cradle. These 3 are the same brothers who attacked him in his previous life when he was running after being framed. They were known as Hugo's Trident. To test the first rumor, the one about 7 minutes in the Styx, one of them sneaks up behind Vicar van Baskerville and covers his mouth and nose. He could break free easily but chooses to play along. 1 minute passes, then 3, then 10. Vicar van Baskerville endures it all without panic. Realizing they may have gone too far, the brother finally lets go, but before he can pull away, the protagonist rips off one of his fingers. The brothers shout that they'll go to a priest and have it reattached later. MC stops them with one cold question. Who said they were allowed to leave? Enraged, one brother rushes him and tries to stab him, proving the second rumor true. The blade can't even pierce his skin. Now it's Vicar's turn. The brothers yell that they're older so he should show respect, but in Baskerville, age means nothing. Next to strength and talent, one brother finally understands the rumors were real. Right before Vicar van Baskerville punches him in the face, the next one tries to fight back and drops just as fast. One of them says they shouldn't fear him. They'll be healed soon anyway. But the protagonist has no plan to let them walk out so easily. He bends down, picks up the knife they brought, and calmly tells them that since he's feeling generous, he'll allow one of them to leave. Which one survives is up to them. He tosses the knife over, warning that he won't wait long. At least one of the 3 has to live. With that, Vicar van Baskerville creates exactly what he wanted, the fall of the future Baskerville Trident. Elsewhere, the Baskerville butler, John Barrymore, reports to Hugo that the Morgue clan clashed with them again at the Ruby Mine and is now claiming that land is theirs. Hugo answers that he'll deal with it soon enough since the Morgue clan will be visiting before long. Once that is settled, he asks John if there's anything else. John brings up the school's midterm results and reports that Vicar van Baskerville ranked first in the written exam. He also says the practical test is in 5 days and the castle's guardian knights have already left to prepare it. Hugo notes that this means the castle is almost empty, but John still has one more report. There was a serious fight between the young masters, the triplets, and Victor van Baskerville. Hugo, surprised, asks how many died. John says none of them did, but the oldest lost most of his teeth. The middle one had his jaw crushed and the youngest lost his left index finger. They're already being treated, but the damage wasn't just physical. It broke them mentally too. Hugo briefly wonders if they fought each other, then rejects the idea they were too close for that. John agrees and says another brother did it. The one a year younger than all 3. Young Master MC van Baskerville. Hugo calls for MC and he appears right away. Hugo asks about what happened to the triplets. Without regret, he says they're already being treated. But Hugo isn't asking about their bodies. He means the way he shattered their bond. Since that day they eat apart and no longer speak to each other. In the end, Hugo asks if Vicar thinks he did anything wrong. The protagonist says he didn't. He was stronger than they were. Hearing that, Hugo asks if he feels no guilt at all. And MC answers that the triplets approached him first and he generously forgave them. He knows this well. He has no reason to apologize for what he did. And he throws back the same words Hugo once used on him in the past. He answers with Hugo's own old words. Forgiveness is just something weak people use when they can't get revenge. That impresses Hugo because to him power is justice, and if power is justice then weakness is a sin. With that he calls for the butler. Hugo tells him to take the protagonist to the food storage and give him whatever he wants. He also wishes him luck on the practical exam and warns him not to lose to anyone from the main family. The protagonist agrees, annoyed, and leaves. At the warehouse he asks for chocolate, more exactly cocoa beans. Not finished chocolate but the raw beans. Even the butler figures he wants them because one bean can make 100 L of chocolate. But MC doesn't want them as food. Their real use will show up soon. 5 days later, during the practical exam, the Baskervilles face an incident no one expected. Around the world, their family is known as the Berserker clan because even their children go through brutal training almost from the moment they can walk. They climb mountains for endurance, and rest is only allowed at set times. At night, they even sleep beside demon corpses or live baby monsters to get used to harsh conditions. Because of that, the young hounds can handle incredibly hard tests. That's why people call them the Berserker clan. And now another test like that is about to begin on a mountain crawling with demon creatures. The instructor says the goal is simple. Survive for 1 month and hunt demon creatures. There are also points to earn and they only need to remember 2 things. The rewards are 10 points for saving someone's life, 30 if they do it without getting badly hurt, 50 for surviving after eliminating another participant, 70 for surviving while hunting demon creatures, and 90 for meeting every condition given in advance. Each student also gets a brooch, and stealing someone else's brooch earns extra points. Before starting, the instructor gives one warning. Don't leave the restricted area. The Guardian Knights will score them in secret during the exam. So they're being watched the whole time. Nervous students whisper about Vicar and wonder if he'll do as well here as he did on the written test. Then the bell rings and the exam starts. Some students rush for better ground while others form teams to steal points from anyone alone. Even the triplets, still at odds, stay together. After the students leave, the instructor thinks about the test. It doesn't tell them to kill each other, but it doesn't ban it either. And since there's no penalty for certain deaths, everyone ends up trying to kill everyone else. The Guardian Knights watching from the shadows will only make sure the deaths stay to a minimum. One of those knights keeps his eyes on Visor. Then he notices him heading into an unexplored area. Like everyone else, he wants to see what the protagonist can really do. But when MC gets there, he just says he can finally enjoy his vacation. The knight is stunned. While the others are fighting, Vicar is just relaxing, thinking the boy only wants to hide. The knight leaves disappointed. But that was exactly what he wanted. He knew someone was watching him. Using the cocoa beans to hide the smell of roasting meat. He finishes his setup. Now the hunt can begin. A few days later, he leaves camp and enters the unexplored zone. For him though, this place isn't unfamiliar. In his past life, he'd been in places like this many times. And better than anyone, he knows this is Hellhound territory. Back then he only fought one when he was 18. So for his current 8-year-old body, it should be far too much. Still, he knows a way even a child can kill a hellhound by using its weaknesses. Weakness 1, a hellhound can only move well in a straight line and struggles with curved movement. Weakness 2, water. For some reason, demon creatures can't cross water, even in small amounts. That forces a hellhound to slow down, come closer, and expose its fatal weak point, its open mouth while charging. So Visor uses the chocolate beans. 1 bean can create 100 L of chocolate, and chocolate is poison to dog-type monsters. Smirking, he says a hellhound can't even beat plain chocolate. Then he kills it. By hunting demon creatures, his body gains karma or experience, making him stronger. When he swings his sword now, it already feels lighter. At this rate, he may recover his old strength before he even becomes an adult. After that win, he can only wonder how Hugo will react when he learns Visor killed a demon creature ranked B+ in danger. But while he's thinking, more enemies appear, more hellhounds. After cutting off the first one's head, he gets ready to fight again. Then the dogs suddenly hesitate. They look afraid, which makes no sense. These monsters would rather die than bow to prey. Then a far worse enemy appears. Icberus ranked A+ in danger. But Visor quickly spots something odd. It's injured and covered in arrows. After a moment, he figures the barbarian tribe from the other side of the mountain must have done it. To Visor, this is a huge chance, even if he has to show every card he's been hiding. Until now, he's kept his true skill hidden from the Baskervilles. His swordsmanship is already at master level. Right now, he has strength the other students won't reach until they're adults. Trusting that power, he charges the Icberus and attacks with precise expert skill. Since it's wounded, he's sure he can kill it. Visor believes his weapon is enough to hurt the Icberus. But for one careless moment, he leaves an opening, and the Icberus strikes with its claws, shattering his sword and smashing into him. The blow sends him flying into a tree and knocks him out. His arm screams in pain, but thanks to the river Styx, it stays in place. If it had been anyone else, even weakened, the Icberus would have done far worse damage. Now he understands better than ever how dangerous this is. Another hit might kill him. So, the best choice is the 36 stratagem, run. So, that's exactly what he does. If the Icberus weren't injured, it would have caught and torn him apart. Visor runs with everything he has. He can still make it if he reaches the place he prepared. If the monster catches him first, he's dead. Just a little farther and he makes it almost like a miracle. He reaches it. The creature falls into his trap. He built it for a pack of hellhounds. So, even Visor is surprised it works on a Icberus. Since it's also a dog-type monster, the trap works. The spears are coated with chocolate bean extract. Even though that poison should be fatal, the Heil beast still stays on its feet. So for the final strike, Vicar throws a spear at it. The hit bounces off, but the spear carried blood mamba venom. And after 7 steps, just like the stories say, the poison creature dies. All 3 heads collapse. Now the problem is figuring out how to carry it. But before that, he remembers Kberis are guardian monsters. That means they protect territory. So there must be a dungeon nearby that it was guarding. Vicar covers himself in the Kberis scent. So most monsters will leave him alone. Following the trail the beast made before it reached him, he finds the dungeon. He'd seen this place in his past life at 18, but it had been empty then. Now it's different. The whole place reeks of corruption and mana. It clearly hasn't been explored yet, so he heads inside. After walking a bit, he finds a lit chamber deeper in the dungeon. In the center is a ruby giving off the light. Nearby lies a human skull, and at its feet is a note. The writer says his real name no longer matters and calls himself Cain. The letter is meant to warn whoever comes next. According to his family's legends, this was an ancestral dungeon, and his younger brother Abel chose to enter it. Together they cleared countless trials, killed thousands of monsters, and finally reached this stone chamber where they found one last puzzle. That puzzle trapped them there for 3 full years. Reading that, Vicer can only think how badly they must have wanted the dungeon's treasure. And the final riddle was this. What entered was 1, but inside became 2. Only one may leave that was carved on the stone. As he keeps reading, he learns that he and Abel spent a long time on that grim puzzle and came to one conclusion. They were twins. And in their mother's womb, they had once been 1. After birth, they became 2. So to leave the dungeon with what they wanted, they had to become 1 again. In the end, after a long fight, he killed Abel. Then only Cain remained in the stone chamber. But nothing changed. To him, they had become 1. Yet he gained nothing. Despair took over. He had murdered his own younger brother. After endless regret, he finally decided to leave this place. His message to any descendant brave enough to come here is only one thing. Leave immediately. When Vicar finishes reading, he realizes something is wrong. He entered the dungeon alone and he isn't a twin. So Cain and Abel solve the riddle the wrong way. Thinking it over, the protagonist sees the real answer. Their conflict kept them from understanding it. But to MC, the truth is obvious. The answer to the riddle is the dungeon itself. He entered as 1 with the dark, but the ruby's light split him into 2. If darkness makes him 1 again, then the answer was his shadow. That's why the brothers ended up killing each other. The relic from the demon cave could only be drawn by someone from the Baskerville bloodline. Reading that, he remembers seeing this sword in an old myth book back in his past life. It was Beelzebub the gluttony fly. The old legend spoke of demons that once invaded the continent. 7 disasters called the demonic constellations. To stop them, the heads of the 7 great clans had to fight back. The enemy faced by the Baskerville leader was Beelzebub, the gluttony fly. After it was defeated, its remains were sealed inside Baskerville land. In the present, nobody believed that story, but it was real. And in the future, this sword would end up in demon hands. Not in this life. With that in mind, he tries to pull the sword free, but it doesn't come out. Instead, it sinks into his hand. Getting the item like this was unexpected, but he only wonders how much stronger it can make him. Once he finishes in the dungeon, he's ready to leave. Then dizziness suddenly hits him. He quickly realizes the thing in his hand is hungry. His hand starts guiding him on its own toward the corpse of the first infernal dog he killed. Then the thing begins sucking blood like it's been starving forever. He stops to think and realizes the dead trees and dried land here may have been caused by Beelzebub's insane hunger. How much would it take to satisfy this thing? He also recalls that Beelzebub could steal an enemy's abilities. It could keep taking powers for itself and anyone robbed of them was left ruined. Still, maybe 3 is the limit it can take from 1 corpse. From the infernal dog, it stole hemorrhage, a skill that makes even tiny wounds pour out huge amounts of blood. It also took incineration and regeneration. That regeneration though came from the corpse of a rat beneath the Kberis. After getting the demonic weapon ready for testing, he finally relaxes. With all the young hounds gathered, the practical exam ends, and the results are announced right away. The monster corpses were turned into things like necklaces, shields, and swords. Then they were handed back to the students, and 1 corpse in particular drew attention. The one Vicar brought after wandering into an unexplored area and killing a Kberis by accident. Hugo can barely believe it. A Kberis is a demonic beast even guardian knights struggle to handle. People also say it had been injured and poisoned. When he is asked about it, he only says he's tired and heads back to the dorm. That just makes Hugo admire how sharp he is. To Hugo, knowledge is power, and power decides a person's worth. The butler is shocked too. But for another reason he thinks the boy's talent came from the Van side, not the Law or Lame side. He assumes Hugo is surprised for the same reason. But Hugo says no. He's not like the other patriarchs and doesn't care about bloodlines. What matters to him is talent and will. It doesn't matter if someone was born to a noble woman or an impure one. Then the butler reveals something we hadn't known before, adding that weak people can come from fine blood too. Hearing that, he wonders if Hugo means the second son he's training in secret. After that, the talk ends and Hugo calls for Viker. Once he arrives, Hugo asks right away how he killed the Kberis. The protagonist answers plainly. He fed it chocolate. Since it's a dog-type creature, chocolate works like poison. The butler watches in silence, thinking it's hard to believe this is a father and son talking. They barely greet each other before jumping straight into business. Hugo then asks why MC ignored questions about the hunt. Victor answers that Hugo isn't his master. So Hugo asks who is. He says it's the patriarch himself. Please, Hugo rewards him by giving him the entire corpse of the demonic beast he killed. And for taking first place in the practical test, he also grants him one wish. That's exactly what the protagonist wanted to hear. His request is access to the library of 10,000 books deep inside the main Baskerville castle, one of the biggest libraries in the empire. Hugo asks if he understands that only the patriarch, the vice-patriarch and members of the main house are allowed in. Thinking the request will be refused, MC starts to back off. But to his surprise, Hugo agrees. He even suggests he read Baskerville Fencing's Sixth Prey. That makes Viker tense up. No illegitimate child had ever been allowed to read past the fourth prey. Still he calms down quickly. In the end it's only the sixth prey. Hugo himself has only reached the seventh, while in his past life the protagonist made it to the ninth. Even so, he can never forget the contempt he suffered for being illegitimate. This time he will surpass Hugo. What he truly wants is the sword scripture holding the Baskerville's real pure core. That text was only found later in his previous life, and it had been written by the first Baskerville patriarch, the man who killed the seven calamities. And this time Hugo Baskerville will place it in his hands. With their talk over, Hugo wishes him luck. The cure thanks him and leaves. Not long after, he heads for the library. When he arrives, he's stunned. It's his first time seeing it with his own eyes. This place holds all kinds of sword manuals he once dreamed of learning. In the Baskerville clan, no matter how much mana you have, an illegitimate child can't study past alluring prey. That rule exists to keep the hunting dogs from turning their claws on the direct heirs who will one day be their masters. When he finds the sixth prey manual, he still can't believe Hugo told him to read it. Maybe Hugo thinks he can't memorize much in one day. In his past life, Vikir obsessed over the theory behind the first through fourth techniques. He studied so hard he could even guess parts of the fifth, though he never truly learned it. But now he wants something far beyond that. As he moves deeper inside, the guards are surprised, thinking he's already about to leave. They even wonder if he forgot something and want to fetch it for him. But he says he's just going to skim a few other texts so they can ignore him and keep working. The guards think the section he's heading to has nothing important, but Vicar didn't come here for nothing. A hidden treasure is waiting there and they have no idea. After searching for a bit, he finds it right away. Alluring Prey, a basic first claw manual not even Baskerville children bother reading. Its torn pages make it look like worthless junk, but Vicar knows that isn't true. Before he died in his past life, his hunting unit found a strange relic in the border dungeon. It was part of a Baskerville scripture. Hugo noticed something odd about it and ordered a search through all 10,000 books in the library. The hidden text explained how to reach the 10th prey. Obsessed, Hugo sent the hunting dogs to recover the 6 missing pages. That search revealed the rest had been hidden among the other 7 great clans, which nearly pushed Hugo into war with them. He sent the hunting dogs after anyone who stood in the way, and after huge sacrifices, they finally delivered every missing page to Hugo, and the reward for that was nothing. Remembering it all, Victor burns with anger. Because of their efforts, Hugo rose past the 7th prey and reached the 9th by using the hunting dogs like fuel. But not this time. The one who gathered those pages for Hugo was MC himself. And because of that, he remembers all their contents. The only reason he never went beyond the 4th prey was that he had never seen the original text. In his past life, he stood at the 4th prey and had already reached a high aura rank. Thinking it over, he vows to regain the strength he had before, even before he turns 15. That goal drives him, so he spends the entire day reading until he knows the whole book so well he could recite it backward. Soon he notices the guards are gone. That's when he gets ready to use at least the 5th prey. His body is still a child, so it won't be easy. He focuses and starts the technique, striking with the first, second, and fourth Baskerville prey. Before going back in time, his past life was brutal. Even though he reached the highest aura rank, he only did it through endless effort. The main house still mocked him because he couldn't learn the swordsmanship meant for them. The only reason he never reached the fifth prey or beyond was that he was illegitimate. This time, things will be different. He refuses to live like that again. Right there, he reaches the fifth prey. It's still incomplete, but he managed to unleash it. Warmth fills his chest at that moment. He almost wants to cry from joy after finally reaching the fifth prey. For the first time in Baskerville history, a hunting dog was growing this fast and aiming for his master's throat. Now he just needs more mana and he can already feel his core expanding. Baker can tell how far he's climbed. In his last life he only reached this level at 30. Now he's done it at just 8. A graduate swordsman is on a whole different level from an expert, especially in mana control. His mana is denser, easier to shape, and his sword skill has improved too. Still, he has no plan to stop at the fifth prey. Now the path to the 10th prey is open to him, a style with endless room to grow. Before, all he had was the skinning Fang technique, which only boosted speed and strength. That style had clear limits. Alluring prey is different. A complete sword art with both offense and defense and no real cap. Vikir figures that if he stays focused, he can even handle a mid-level graduate. For assassination, he sees his success rate as perfect. In a straight fight though, that drops by half. His next problem is how much power to show Hugo. Too much or too little would both be bad. He still wants the rewards that come with Hugo's expectations. Then he makes his move. Victor burns the book of the 10th prey, making sure no one else can learn what he did, but the guards catch him right away, and he quickly apologizes, calling it a careless mistake. The guards tell him not to blame himself and say they failed to watch over him properly. He brushes it off, saying they were just ordinary books and not worth worrying about. Since bigger matters need attention, he suggests they all pretend this never happened. Touched by their young master's kindness, they thank him. After apologizing one more time, he leaves the library. As they watch him go, the guards can only think about what a good kid he is. Later in the Patriarch's office, Hugo asks if the reading taught him anything. Vicur says it did, which instantly catches Hugo's interest, and Hugo asks what he felt in the library. The protagonist says it felt warm and sharp, yet also soft and easy to shape. Hugo and the butler freeze. Are those words describing aura? In this world, aura is the sign that someone has truly stepped into swordsmanship. Even gifted kids who train non-stop usually can't reach that point before 15. Hugo reins himself in and tells himself it can't be real. Victor is only 8. Even so, he asks for a demonstration and MC agrees. They head to the training ground. On the way, the butler asks how Hugo plans to test him. Hugo says he'll use a demon beast suited for the job, one he intentionally kept hungry so it would be more aggressive. Then they bring it out. It's an orc, a rank C creature already worked into a frenzy. The onlookers think this is way too much. Normally, you need to be around 15 to face one. Still, they calm down by trusting the Guardian Knights to step in if needed. Once everything is set, Hugo gives the order to release it. Driven mad with rage, the orc locks onto its target. Visor doesn't panic. He stays perfectly calm as it charges. At the last moment, he slices off one arm. Then a leg. That should have been the moment the orc's fast regeneration kicked in. But because of Visor's infernal dog hemorrhage effect, the wound won't close. Everyone is stunned. How can an 8-year-old do this? Hugo, though, still isn't satisfied. He notices right away. Hugo wants to see what he gained from the library. So, the protagonist reveals an aura blade and kills the orc in an instant. Now, Hugo is truly shocked that was the aura of a low-level swordsman, something an 8-year-old shouldn't be able to use. The butler congratulates Hugo on having such a prodigy. He even says that among all the clans in the Empire, there's never been a genius like this. But Hugo resists the idea, saying the orc was strange. It kept bleeding and was already badly weakened. Then Vicar walks up and asks if they have anything stronger than an orc. The students, already terrified, can hardly believe what they just heard. MC wants to reveal a little more, just enough that his talent gets recognized and he can gain some distance from Hugo. For instance, he might get sent to the jungle or admitted to the academy. Hearing the request, Hugo says the orc really wasn't enough to fill his son's appetite. Then he orders them to bring the barbarian test subject they captured for experiments. Vicar asks if he can begin at once and gets permission. He moves in quickly. The creature looks slow because of its huge body, but it reacts fast and throws the first punch. Vicar slips past it. Even when he gets a chance to strike, he holds back, which Hugo sees as the right call. The troll's regeneration is monstrous. If you can't kill it in one clean hit, you'll just waste your strength. So the only answer is to fight smart. The boys watching wonder what he is planning. Is he going to wear the troll down by dodging everything? From the protagonist's side, killing it would be easy if he used his real power, but that would create problems. He needs to win in a way that looks natural. One idea is to turn the troll's own strength against it, hit during its forward rush, and that's exactly what he does. He cuts the troll, but the wound closes almost at once. The crowd loses hope, thinking number 8-year-old could ever beat a troll. Vicar knows that better than anyone. With only the first prey, it really would be impossible. Seeing the same thing, Hugo tells him to stop before it gets dangerous. But MC cuts him off and says if he can't kill it with his next strike, he'll give up. Then he moves again and thinks about how much strength to reveal. But he's already made that choice. He'll show just enough to make it seem like sudden enlightenment. Wondering how shocked Hugo will be, Visor lands a fatal strike and takes the troll's head clean off. Everyone is left speechless. A true irregular has appeared. A week later, he grumbles that he can't stand this food anymore. Still, a lot around him has changed. Now, everyone avoids getting near him. And from the troll fight, he picked up a new skill, Ultra Regeneration. While he's lost in thought, the triplets suddenly show up. Vicar asks if the beating they got wasn't enough. But they only came to say how awesome it was when he killed the Kberis and the troll. Before he can ask what they mean, the butler appears too and says the patriarch wants him immediately. Not long after, a carriage arrives at Baskerville Castle. Inside the patriarch's meeting room, the guest is Adolphe, head of the Morgue Scarlet clan. They've already been talking about this year's annual event, which the two clans handled together. Hugo even mocks the Morgue Scarlet children for making a fuss over a few scratches. Adolphe answers that the Morgue Scarlet clan is noble and refined. That's the current mood between the Empire's famed magic clan, Morgue Scarlet, and the Iron Sword clan, Baskerville. But it wasn't always this bad. 2 generations earlier, the Emperor declared that sword and magic should support each other. After that, the two clans started joint training for children from 8 to 15. The trouble began later over ruby mines found in their lands, and the relationship between the family heads slowly twisted. Even so, the Emperor ordered the joint training to continue. Adolphe says he's heard rumors of a genius rising in the Baskerville clan. Hugo thanks him. That alone surprises Adolphe since Hugo rarely praises any child. Then Adolphe says his clan has been just as lucky and calls Camo inside. The doors open, revealing Camo, the daughter of Adolphe's eldest sister. He tells her to greet Hugo, but instead she asks if he's the thief who stole their ruby mine. The whole room is stunned. Hugo repeats thief in anger. While Adolphe tries to step in, but Camo says Uncle Adolphe himself called Hugo a pathetic bearded man. Just a few hours earlier that pushes Hugo to tell Adolphe to teach his niece some manners. Camo doesn't back down and demands the mine be returned because she needs those rubies for her research. Hugo snaps and orders her to be quiet. Adolphe jumps in asking if this is how he treats a child, even mocking the Empire's sword saint for bullying an 8-year-old girl. Then someone cuts in saying, it seems the Morgue Scarlet clan never taught its children not to desire what belongs to others. It's Visor speaking as he steps through the door. The butler announces young master, the protagonist, Van Baskerville. Adolphe studies the boy from a distance, then notices his niece is no longer beside him. She's already standing in front of Vicar, demanding to know what he just said. MC recognizes her at once. This is the Steel-Blood Empress of the Morgue Scarlet clan, the only archmage from that proud family ever called a genius among geniuses. In his past life, she made history by impaling enemies and turning them into a border wall. And now she keeps arguing that the ruby mine belongs to Morgue Scarlet. His first reply is that she must have worked really hard to come all this way just to throw a fit. Both clan heads are impressed by that answer. Camo bristles and asks if he really called it a tantrum. Vicar tells her, yes, that's exactly what it is. Magic gathers in her hands as she declares she'll show him why the ruby mine belongs to Morgue Scarlet. The protagonist doesn't even flinch. A little later, a small city takes shape. Everyone is surprised and Camo proudly says even someone as clueless as him should understand. Now, Vicar had expected an attack, but all she did was use magic to make a model of the city. She explains the border mine is where the best rubies come from. The issue is simple. The entrance sits in Morgue Scarlet land, but the tunnels below run into Baskerville territory. So, in her view, since they can enter it, the cave should be theirs. She adds that Baskerville keeps yelling about trespassing and won't even agree to lease the area. That makes Adolphe praise his niece for being clever. Victor says ruby ore is mainly a magic material and the Baskervilles don't really need it. Then he adds that she's only this desperate because no one on their side is dumb enough to rent out land for pocket change. She snaps that he just admitted the rubies mean nothing to them and he confirms it. What they care about is their border, so they're sending her back. As far as he's concerned, the only trespassers here are Morgue Scarlet. That sends her into another angry explanation. She starts pointing around saying, this side is theirs and that side is hers. Then she steps over the wall and asks, whose arm is this now? The Cure asks if she really wants that answer after crossing into Baskerville land, then grabs her arm. With a grin he says, it's his now. She freezes, blushes and struggles while asking why she belongs to him now. After calling him an idiot, she gets cut off when he asks who said she did. Then he pulls the knife at his waist. Even Adolphe and the butler are surprised as Vicar calmly says he only meant her arm. Camus instantly locks up. Even Hugo is startled by how far MC is taking this. He isn't bluffing at all. Realizing that, Camus starts screaming for her uncle. Adolphe angrily orders Vicar to back away from his niece. He immediately does as he's told. Camus rushes into Adolphe's arms sniffling while Adolphe demands an explanation from Hugo. He turns back to the protagonist and says he went too far, but Vicar only laughs and says sorry. Spinning the dagger, he says, this kind of rough play is normal with his brothers. Still mad, the old man asks why a child even has a toy like that. MC apologizes again and says, it's just a game kids in the Baskerville clan grow up with. Hugo cuts in asking if the Morgue Scarlet leader isn't being a little overprotective over children's play. Then he says he has an idea for the ruby mine problem and thinks Morgue Scarlet will like it. Still crying, Kimu says she won't forgive Vicar for this. He just laughs it off. Not long after that, the friendly rivalry between Baskerville and Morgue Scarlet officially began. Kids from 8 to 15 gathered to show what they could do. This year though, everyone's eyes were on Camus Morgue Scarlet, the young talent from the famous Magic clan. Facing her was Baskerville's iron-blooded swordsman, Vicer Van Baskerville. Morgue Scarlet had proposed a duel between the two rising stars of their clans. Camus tells him to get ready. She never holds back in a real fight. Then she starts casting at once. The crowd is stunned because Camus is using quadruple channeling at her age. The Morgue Scarlet leader glances over at Hugo with a smug smile, but Hugo doesn't react. A second later, Camus fires 4 spells at Vicer at once. He dodges every single one. Then she throws up an earth wall to stop him, but the protagonist kicks straight through it. Camus starts wondering if this is the power of Baskerville's Styx River. She shuts her eyes and braces for impact, but nothing comes. When she looks up, Vicar is about to flick her forehead, and the hit lands like a gunshot. Even the Morgue Scarlet leader is shocked by the boy's strength. Camus feels completely humiliated and demands to know if he's going easy on her. MC only asks if it still hurts. Then he tells her to give up before it gets worse. Furious, she raises 2 earth walls at once. Vicer could have gone around them, but he decides to toy with her a little. He breaks through both walls in one strike. His hand stops right in front of her face as he asks whose hand got past the wall. Getting ready for another flick, he says it's clearly the stronger one. The lump on her forehead looks even bigger now. Tears well up as she lashes out with fire magic, furious and hurting. Vicar knows he could end this any time, but he wants a way to settle it without really hurting her. Then he notices the boys behind him and gets an idea. One of them is a wizard, the other a swordsman, and they're competing to see whether the swordsman can cut through every spell. When Cam sees Vicar isn't even focused on her, she gets even angrier. At that moment, the wizard starts charging a much bigger spell, challenging the swordsman to cut that one too. For him this is perfect. He points behind her and tells Camus to cast a barrier now, but it may already be too late. The Morgue Scarlet leader panics. The blast is huge. For a moment, no one can see the arena at all. Morgue Scarlet calls out for Camus. She's alive, but after blocking the spell with magic, her clothes are badly burned. Her biggest fear is that when the smoke clears, everyone will see her half naked. Right then, someone tosses clothing over her. It's Vicar telling her to put it on. Through tears, she asks what he'll do without his shirt. He says that doesn't matter. Camus is totally flustered, wondering why he's suddenly being kind until Vicar notices his arm is bleeding, likely from a shard of that old sword still holding aura. As the dust clears, people can finally see the two of them. The Morgue Scarlet leader finally lets out a breath of relief. The crowd can't tell who won, especially with the protagonist bleeding. Soon though, they start talking about how insane his physical ability is for a kid. Both of them are unbelievable talents for 8-year-olds. Later, in the halls of Baskerville Castle, Hugo asks Visor how the duel with the Morgue Scarlet girl went. MC says it was fun and that he understood why the match mattered. Then Hugo asks why he didn't strike right away, and he admits he hesitated because he'd never fought a girl before. Hugo tells him hesitation in battle only gets you hurt and says that wound should teach him that lesson. Visor is surprised Hugo sounds worried about him. In his past life, Hugo had always seemed cold and brutal, the kind of man people said was changed by losing his first wife and eldest son so horribly. As they walk, Hugo asks what he thinks should be done with the ruby mine. The protagonist says they should let Morgue Scarlet have it. Hugo asks why, and MC explains that Baskerville's job is to push borders outward, so it's smarter to let Morgue Scarlet develop the place and take the losses. Hugo is thrilled and says that's exactly right. Once Morgue Scarlet gets the mine, they'll station plenty of people there. Then Baskerville only has to stir up the demonic beasts and barbarians nearby, solving everything at once. With a dark smile, Hugo says the rubies will be even better bait than Morgue Scarlet blood. Then they'll regret ever stepping into that land. He even praises Visor, saying the boy's idea matches 90% of his own plan. He only got it because Hugo made the same choice in his past life. He also says they should watch Moore's movements, but Hugo says that's already handled. Then around the corner someone stops them. It's the head of Morgue Scarlet, asking for a word before they leave. Camus stands behind him red-faced with embarrassment. Hugo asks what he wants and the man says there's one important thing to discuss. Leasing the land is only part of it. When Hugo asks what Baskerville would gain, Morgue Scarlet gets straight to it, an engagement. The old man proposes tying the two clans together through marriage, suggesting Baskerville's eldest son and his niece, the eldest daughter of Morgue Scarlet. He says she has everything. Looks, brains, the whole package. According to him, she'd be the perfect match for Baskerville's heir. Hugo points out his eldest son is nearly 25 and the age gap is too big. The old man says he doesn't care about that, but Cammy cuts in. She declares she won't marry anyone weaker than her mother. The old man laughs and says if that's the standard, she'll stay single forever. Then Cammy says the age gap also matters. She wants someone her age or even younger. Hugo starts getting annoyed and says this isn't a buffet. Cammy fires back that she knows, but she won't just take whatever is handed to her. Then red all over. She glances to the side, catching both Hugo and the Morgue Scarlet leader off guard. She's looking at Vikir van Baskerville. The old man instantly starts sweating and quietly reminds her the protagonist isn't pure blood and is a bastard son. He even says a mixed blood dragon is still just a mutt that pushes Hugo close to fury. Was he actually starting to care about Vikir? He says the person involved should have a say too, then asks what his son thinks of the idea. Kimmy waits nervously, too embarrassed to look up. MC studies everyone for a moment, then gives an answer that shocks them all. No one can believe what they just heard. He says clearly that he'll only agree if his family orders him to. The old man is furious, thinking the protagonist is being disrespectful to the direct line daughter of Morgue Scarlet. Cammy, meanwhile, starts wondering if he truly doesn't like her or if he's only pretending. Embarrassed, Cammy stays quiet, but Hugo cuts in and says direct blood means nothing in Baskerville. He adds that even famous families can have weak children, while another branch can produce the better one. That makes Adolf think Visor must be far more important than he first looked. So he steps closer and studies MC from top to bottom. He already knew exactly who Adolf Morgue Scarlet was. He was a Sixth Circle master, one of the strongest figures in the elite magic clan Morgue Scarlet. Adolf says raw talent alone is nowhere near enough to become Camy's husband. Resting a hand on Vaker's shoulder, he adds that this marriage idea came from the clan, not from him. He even says not even Baskerville's legitimate sons would be worthy of C. Adolf tries to force the protagonist down with pressure on his shoulder, but the boy doesn't budge or react. When Adolf demands an answer, MC calmly says he stopped listening the moment Adolf claimed he wasn't speaking to him. Cam is stunned by how boldly he talks to her uncle, while Hugo just laughs. Adolf bursts out laughing too, then asks to speak with the boy more seriously at the training ground. Hugo teases him. Was the Empire's great mage really going to question an 8-year-old? Adolf says, this isn't a clan matter, just a request from an uncle. Cammy herself doesn't seem to want that. But Adolf is already irritated and tells her to stay quiet. He presses the request again and Hugo finally gives in. If Adolf wants it that badly, then fine. They head to the training ground outside. Only Hugo and Cam stay to watch. Adolf says he wants to see what Visor can really do. So he tells him to show everything he's got. He agrees. Still, he thinks Adolf might pass out if he actually showed everything. Then Adolf casts a spell and says he'll make things fair. He starts shaping something with magic. Cammy is shocked. Her uncle is blending fire, earth, and water perfectly. The spell forms a jar filled with water. Adolphe places it on his head and says if Vikir can spill even one drop, he wins. The protagonist knows Adolphe is a monster. He couldn't even scratch in his past life. But now this is the perfect chance to test his new strength. And he's sure Hugo allowed it for the same reason. When Adolphe tells him to come, MC decides not to reveal too much, just enough to satisfy Hugo. From the side, Camus warns that charging her uncle Hedon is a bad idea. Then Vicar pauses. He's impressed. Adolphe has raised a barrier he can't get through, calling shield magic the best answer to a swordsman without outstanding aura yet. Breaking through it would be hard for the protagonist right now. Then Adolphe casts another spell. Now he attacks. Fire spears rush in from every direction and Camo protests. He never even used this much against her. Adolphe asks a little sadly whose side she's on. Hugo, though, notices the spells are still slow enough to dodge, so he doesn't step in. Visser quickly realizes this isn't a real problem. He has the body of his 8-year-old self, but all the experience from before his return. That should be enough to make Adolphe lower his guard, maybe even enough to kill him. MC swings with all his strength at the barrier. Adolphe says he can try 100 times. His sword will never break that shield. Fire ignores him and keeps striking the exact same spot. Soon cracks appear. Adolphe notes that the boy is like a machine, landing every hit in one place. He admits his swordsmanship is impressive, but there's still a problem. The sword itself can't endure a barrier of this level. So Adolphe mocks him for forgetting to think about his blade's durability too while he keeps talking on and on. Meanwhile, Hugo and Camus are completely stunned. Adolphe says Vikir has talent but still needs a lot of work before becoming Cam's fiancé. Then he feels something drip onto his forehead. A shard from the protagonist's broken sword has pierced the jar and water starts pouring out. MC says that should be enough. Then asks if Adolphe wants him to spill even more. At that moment, Camus looks completely taken. She's already thinking this means they should get married. Hugo starts laughing. Sure, that result was no accident. Victor van Baskerville, the son from a lesser branch, might be turning into a hunting dog, far sharper and stronger than Hugo expected.